Hey guys, it's Chris Singer back from CNH Small Engine again for another informative review video. This is a review video for actually a riding lawnmower. This is actually made by Sears, and these things were produced back in the mid to the late 90s, I believe, because my grandfather had one almost identical to this one, except he had a different engine. He had a 10 horsepower, and this one has I think a 13 and a half horsepower in this one. So this is a review for a riding lawnmower. This is a Sears. I can give you a front picture shot here, right, of the designation they got in the front here. And you see right there it says RE 2000 Sears Craftsman Ride and Mulch, made in the United States of America. And let's go to the side over here as well too. This machine actually has a 30-inch deck on this one right here. So it's basically one blade on her for that. You got one big mulching or side discharge blade they put on these things for that. And you can also convert these things to have a rear bagger on there as well too, because the one my grandfather had, he had a rear bagger attachment tube, and he had the 2-bushel carrier bags in the back as well too, so they can be converted to rear bagger as well too for anybody's information for that. And on the side, the right side, you see over here, says 13.5 horsepower, 30-inch cutting path with a 5-speed transmission. These things have a, I believe, a Tecumseh Peerless transmission in them as well too. And on the other right side right here, you can see the selector lever right there as well too. You got 6 different positions right there as well too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, low to high. And you have your transmission selector lever right there as well too. So you got 5 forward gears on there. Let me see if I can get a better picture for you. There we go. You got 5 forward gears, neutral and reverse for the transaxle as well too. And I'll give you a shot of the engine here as well for that. Get this thing flipped up here for you guys. And there's the engine right there. It's a Sears Craftsman. Even though it's a Tecumseh, it's a 13.5 horsepower overhead valve, industrial commercial engine right there for that. This is the vertical shaft engine. These engines actually have a vector carburetor on here. I don't particularly like that, but it can be extremely pain in the ass if you want to say that, because this lady had this machine over by us. Well, we actually picked it up at our place and brought it over to our shop here about 2.5 years ago, and she was having carb problems on her. We had to replace the carburetor because, unfortunately, we tried to rebuild the carburetor. We did a standard factory overhaul of carb, and the thing would not work to our satisfaction after we did that, so we had to bite the bullet and get a new carburetor. And unfortunately, the new carburetor at that time, back in early 2013, it was around $125, $130 plus shipping and handling and tax, plus installation and stuff like that. So I'll give you a tag picture here of the actual engine as well too for you guys. And there, I'm just gonna zoom in a little bit more here. Sorry about that. The autofocus here. It's a Sears and Roebuck, made for Sears, I should say. It has the Sears designation on the actual model number. It's a 143-971-300, data manufacturer 7024. This one, I believe, was made back in, I think, 1997 right there for that. So that's the that's what the lady actually told me whenever she supposedly purchased it, or her husband purchased it. So these are made in the late, I'd say mid to late 90s, because as I said before, my grandfather had one almost identical to this one, except for he had a 10 horsepower, and this one has a little bit bigger 13.5 horsepower overhead valve engine, so this is a little bit more beefy model out there for that. So let me get the switch down here. Here we go. Let's go to the back. And on the back you see the output for the muffler, plus you also see the overhead valve setting right there as well too. There you go. You have a nice big muffler in the back, comes out the engine port on there for that. Plus you have a fuel filter over there as well too for the fuel line from the fuel tank. And underneath that you can see the transmission underneath there as well too. And the transmission is actually made by Spicer. I apologize for giving you incorrect information, because most of these machines we get over here, they do have a Peerless transmission on them. This one's actually made by Spicer, so I apologize for that inaccuracy right there for that. You can actually see the tag right here Spicer, so made by Dana, and on there it has a 108-1997 tag for when it was actually made. So this proves right there, right on the actual transmission itself, the machine was made sometime in 1997 as well too. So there you go for verification. Okay, let's go to the right side here for you guys. Okay, right side, you got the battery over here for that as well too. Let me pop that thing up again for the seat. There we go. These fuel tanks on here, they actually hold, I think, about 1.5 gallons, maybe almost 2 gallons, I believe, on here. So you can cut grass, or probably maybe about an hour and a half, 2 hours out there for your yard, stuff like that. But it should last the majority out there. Plus, you can also get your battery here. This lady got, you won't believe it, she has a Die-Hard gold battery in this machine actually here. So you can see right down there, Die-Hard gold. This is actually in 2006 tractor battery, and this tractor is still relatively good for the actual battery. And we took the caps off. Still has plenty of water enough down in there, so it definitely still works, because it's basically you get what you pay for. Those Die-Hard gold batteries are probably their top of the line, so they'll definitely go a long haul as long as you maintain your machine and don't abuse it. And always take your battery out of the machine at the end of the season, because you don't want it sitting on your shed basically being decharged, because that's one of the worst things you can do for your tractor battery as well too. So we'll move on to the front here again, and you see your clutch brake pedal there as well too, guys. This pedal actually actuates the clutch and the brake mechanism. It's basically a one size fits all thing. It doesn't have a dual pedal. Some of the other like a snapper or some of the other variants of riding lawnmowers actually have dual pedals. You have one on the left side for a clutch and one on the right side for a brake, so they have interchangeability between those two. But the Sears, they thought it was a good idea to put the clutch and the brake in as one specific pedal right there for that. So it actuates the clutch and the brake simultaneously, so it takes up two functions into actually one pedal for that. So there's also one thing I should mention about these drive systems on these specific machines. We received quite a few of these things over here that had problems with the drive system. Not want to drive up, especially uphill, because most of the people who buy these things have like a relatively small flat yard out there for that. And I've at least tell people, if you have one of these machines right here, whenever your the actual pedal is not being pressed in, it's actually sitting the way it currently is right now, you should have a gap right here between your brake pedal arm and the actual gap. They have a rectangular shaped hole right here. You should have about a 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch gap, just enough to move your finger around here. See where my finger's moving at right there? I can basically put my finger almost completely down it without any problem sticking it, or I should say getting it stuck right there for that. And you definitely want to have a gap right there between those two spots. You don't want to have too far back on here, because as basically what I'm saying is, as the belt wears on these specific tractors, this actual arm will go further and further and back until it actually contacts the back of this called body frame piece right here for that. And as it goes back, your transmission will start slipping more and more, and that's basically a telltale sign that your transmission's belt is either going bad, it's getting too stretched and worn out, or you may have adjustments that might need to be done to it, or you might have a pulley might need to be adjusted to underneath there for that. So that's basically a call it quick and dirty, cheap way of checking on your drive belts, or I should say your drive's health right there for that. Because if that thing goes all the way to the back, more time, or I say 9 times out of 10, your transmission or the drive belt's ready to go right there for that. So always keep an eye on that pedal right there, the actual linkage, so it's at least you have a gap right there. Like I said before, about just put your finger down here. As long as you can make your finger go down through there, you should have enough space right there. And that's basically all I can tell you about that specific setup with the actual drive belt. That's one of the nuances of this actual specific machine, because unfortunately the way they have these I should say, the way they have the drive units set up underneath here is you have to basically, let me this camera up again, you have to basically lift up the entire frame off the transmission mounting to actually get to the drive belt underneath here. It's not a quick fix, cheap labor job right there for that, but once you get it in and out of there, it's definitely works fine after you do that. And you have to use OEM belts on her, to say the least, because my grandfather unfortunately used a cheap Chinese knockoff on the one he had I'd say about 10 or 15 years back, and the belt basically went crap after about a month or two time. It kept on slipping off and would not engage properly on the drive unit for that. So just keep mind of that. Always use OEM spec parts, especially on this one right here, because if you use a knockoff like a PIX belt or one of those other third-rate Chinese parts, be aware that the drive belt will not work properly for that. So if anybody has any questions, comments, whatnot, I'll go ahead and start this thing up, and I'll drive it around here. So I almost completely forgot about that as well too, so I apologize for that. So let me fire it up here for you guys. Let's show you how this thing signs and runs. Okay, brake pedal all the way down, all the way up on choke. Make sure the transmission's in neutral down there. Let's fire this sucker up. There you go, guys. Fires up on one pull. Drive this thing around over here. There we go. Release. There we go. These things are a little bit jumpy on her, to say the least, so be mindful of that. If you hear a lot of wind in the background, I can't do anything about that because we're up on a hill up here and we got a lot of wind anyway, so I apologize for that. So just be aware of that fact. And drives good to me. Stop it up here. Brake stops good. Transmission's in third gear. Shut that off. Put the parking brake back on. And there we go, guys. If anybody has any questions, comments, whatnot, just feel free to leave me a message here, and I'll try to answer any questions you have about something similar to this. I'll see you guys. Have a nice day.